All right, we're live. Let's see. I don't think you're getting the audio, so let me go make sure microphone's working. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Looks like it's working. We should be good there. Everything's good. Okay, so Monday live, guys. Welcome back. It's good to see you all. We've got a few things to talk about tonight. I wanted to go over, and a couple things we just don't have anything to talk about. So just here to update what's going on and what I got going on here, and see what we can figure out. So, let's see here. Let's get into. We got Roy's here. Good day, Malcolm. Hey, Roy. How you doing, bud? Good to see you. Hope everything's going better your way. I know last time I think you were on said something about healing up, so hope everything's going good for you on that front. And let's go ahead and um, let's get into the first topic. So, one of the things I wanted to touch on today is this. Is there a new fad coming out for these full frame, high performance fixed lens cameras that are point and shoots? And, there's not a lot of market out there in the full frame world for this. And it's a very, very fine niche area. And is it worth it? I mean, I think the only one out right now is a Leica Q3 that's full frame with a fixed lens. And I can only imagine how much that camera is. I didn't even look up the price on it. But going backwards, there's only been about 6 full frame point and shoot fixed lens cameras out there, to be had. And, Sony started this back in 2012 with the RX1. It was a 24 megapixel sensor on that camera. And then they moved up in 2013 to the RX1R, which is the R sensor from the A7R2 right here. So basically, they threw this sensor in a little body with a fixed 35 millimeter prime lens on it. And then in about November 2015, actually, I take that back. I shouldn't say that was the R2. The RX R2 in 2015 came out with that sensor. I believe the RX R1 or RX1R was the R sensor from their first gen Sony camera, the 32 megapixel, 34. I don't know. I can't remember what it was. Something like that. But that's where they're at. Then the only other full frame cameras that have ever hit the market in this area has been the Zeiss ZX1, and then the Leica Q, the Leica QP, and the Q2 and Q3. Those are the only ones that have been on the market in full frame. And there's plenty of APS-C sensors and 1-inch sensors out there that, the list is a mile long, but as far as full frame goes, that's all there is. And there's rumors floating around, and it's one of the very few rumors right now, is a new Sony RX1 Mark III or R Mark III camera. And that's a high resolution camera in a point and shoot body that's probably $3,600 with a fixed lens on it. And who's that camera for? Who's buying these things for that kind of money? And why do you need it? Roy even got to the question before me. Does anyone need a full frame point and shoot camera? Well, what is the purpose of having all that powerful full frame and not being able to modify your lenses or change it? Who is this camera for? So let's try to dive in and answer that question. And then as well as what would you want to see in a camera like that? Because I have my thoughts about where this is going to turn into and where it's going to go. And it's going to be interesting to see where that leads. First off, I think Sony started this point and shoot thing because they just thought, why not? Let's just try it and do it. And of course, they've done it. As far as digital mirrorless style goes, now going back in time, all cameras were full frame, 35 millimeter film. So there's nothing new to that being said. But why, in modern times, have a camera like that's fixed lens? So that's another question we want to kind of drill down to. So I want to make sure I got this written down. This is why a fixed lens in today's time. And then it'd be 35 millimeter full frame. And then again, why or who wants a full frame point and shoot camera? I mean, what purpose would it serve? So, um, we'll get into that here in a little bit. I'm going to open up the panel tonight for sure. So if anybody wants to join in and talk this out with me, you're more than welcome to. But to go back, and is this a new fad coming out? Are we going to start seeing these cameras more often? And the reason why I bring that up is Panasonic has a rumor out there of one of these cameras, a full frame fixed lens camera. That's essentially going to be an RX1 competitor. Now, Sony just discontinued the RX1R Mark II, which has been out for almost 9 years now, I think. And are we going to see an RX1 Mark III? RX1R Mark III. That's the key. Is where are we going to see that? And is it just not an A7CR at that point? I mean, the A7CR is a interchangeable lens camera that has the R5 sensor. It's compact, lightweight, small. Would Sony really release that with a fixed 35 millimeter lens on it? And that's a big question of like, what if and why? Again, coming back to why have that in there? So we'll dive into that a little bit more here. And what we'd like to see from a camera like that, even though it may be out of our pocket or out of our price range or whatever. What's our ultimate camera like that going to be, and whether or not it's going to be worth having? Let's see here. What else do I have? I got notes tonight. I'm actually somewhat prepared for this live. Roy says, I joined but have physio in a half hour. All right, Roy. I appreciate you coming in, man. Yeah, hang in there. If we'll get together again. And then he says maybe a point and shoot street photography camera. Yeah, I mean, how far off is it? Are there people out there that really want these things, and are they just a collectible? I mean, Leica, for example, right now is the only current one on the market, I believe. Let me just pull this camera up because I think it's relevant that we see what this thing is. So a Leica Q3 is $6,000. It's a 60 megapixel frame CMOS sensor with a 28 1.7 lens on it. Shoots 8K 30, 4K 60, 422 10-bit. I mean, it's a tank of a camera with all the specs. But who's going to spend that kind of money on that? Now, obviously, there's people out there with the money that ain't even an object. But why limit yourself to the one lens on a fixed camera like that? And that's kind of the question: is it a challenge thing? Are you challenging yourself to what you can do with it? I mean, you can challenge yourself with a fixed interchangeable lens camera by just putting on one lens and going with it. So I don't know if that's an argument or not. So that's definitely something to think about. The Leica Q3 is for $6,000. I think that's the last Sony. Let's look this thing up. Sony RX1R2. I think it is officially discontinued. I think they're still available to buy. It's $3,300, and it's basically going to be this sensor and the A7R2 in a smaller point and shoot body that's fixed lens with a 35-1.8 on it. Oh, not even a 35-1.8. It's a 35 f2 is what Sony is. It's a Zeiss lens, and that one, of course, it's dated. It's like I said, it's a 2015 model. It's only got the 1080/60 video in it, 8-bit. It's very, very antiquated as far as current technology goes. We got Leicas are more for posing with than using. I only have one Leica. So posing as far as like a statement, like hey, look what I've got. Is that what you're meaning by posing? It's just there as a luxury piece, I mean, I get that. But and I can definitely see people wanting to spend that kind of money on have just a, on just having whatever camera. Point and shoot cameras are now action cameras. Yeah, I mean, essentially, that's what they've turned into because that that is almost dead completely because the camera phones are so much better now. You don't see the little point and shoots in the camera stores or the big retailers anymore. So yeah, point and shoot's dead, but why? There's still a market out there, obviously, for these people to spend astronomical amounts of money on a camera that's very limited to its lens choice. And for that money, you could have some really good camera and lenses. So why, especially $6,000 on a Leica? I mean, hell, that buy you an A7R5 and at least two or three lenses if you chopped them right, if not more. So I mean, it's a tough pill to swallow, I guess. With that, for me, it seems like. But again, like who are these for? Let me know what you think of who these cameras are for. We're talking about fixed lens, full frame cameras. Um, well, the questions are why, who or why wants a full frame point and shoot camera like that, and why a fixed lens in today's era when we got such small, compact, interchangeable lens cameras. Why develop a full frame fixed lens? Um, Roy says maybe a vlogging point and shoot. Yeah, I mean it's possible to have a vlogging point and shoot camera. They don't have starting out, but somebody starting out isn't going to spend $3,500 or more on a camera body like that unless they just are one totally uneducated in what they're trying to do, and and two, it's overkill for what they want to do probably. Um, First off, 35 millimeters is never going to work for a vlogging situation unless you're away from the camera. I'm on a 24 right now on the FX30, and I'm about 3 feet away from the lens. Because I'm shooting APS-C, it's putting it about 35, 36 millimeter, and it's a little tight still for what I usually have set up in here. But I like using the 24 with the at 1.4. It's worth it. So it's definitely something to think about. Like, and there's not a whole lot of cameras out there on the market that do this. So Panasonic, if their rumor is true that Panasonic has a new full frame point and shoot camera, uh, is Sony have the RX1 Mark III out there as something that's going to be picked up on. So yeah, we'll circle back to this whole discussion of the RX or the full frame point and shoots here. Once I open up the channel, I want to get some people a chance time to get in if they want to. But the next topic on hand is Sony's been extremely quiet lately with as far as releases go, and why is that? If you're not aware, they just announced a whole new Sony television line. They've renamed and rebranded it into Bravia. So no more long astronomical naming nomenclature for the televisions. It's just simple Bravia 7, Bravia 8, Bravia 9s, and then the size televisions you want in those respective sizes. Some very interesting technology in there. Mini LED. I haven't dove deep into. I'm just not into the television side of it that much. I have TVs that I like them. I'd buy a Sony television. That's about it for me. But we've been very quiet on the camera front as far as they haven't. There's really no rumors out there at all right now, and the ones that have been are old rumors. So, what are we expecting from Sony right now? We've got which camera bodies are we looking at going to be maybe popping in, and what lenses are we going to see coming in? Moving forward here and through this year. So, you know, I'm going to just throw out my ideas is that we're coming up on the A7S4, I think, as far as a new video centric mirrorless camera with a photography aspect still in mind. I think moving forward, it's a toss up whether or not Sony will give this camera 8K. I think at this point, a 12 megapixel 4K sensor that's extremely good in low light needs to at least be upgraded to a 6K sensor with the same low light capabilities as the previous 4K models. That's what I think Sony needs to, have in that new camera. They need a new low light king that shoots at least 6K. And when the the A7 IV came out, shooting basically the same video specs the A7S III did, but with 33 megapixel sensor, it was surprising how much sharper and clearer, like corner detail were, finer detail resolution items were in the image compared to the A7S III. Now, that's not everything with video. Of course, video is very fluid, and you don't need that sharp detail all the time. But again, coming of age with what technology is now, I think it's going to be necessary that we have a new low light sensor that is at least 6K capable. Any other cameras on the lineup? I mean, A7R5 is out there still. It's still, I think, doing really well. Sony's been really pushing on this smaller camera stuff, so I don't know if we're going to see any newer, smaller camera, except for we'll get back to the RX series. But are we going to not see any newer A7C style cameras? With the A9 III being released, that was the last big announcement, of course, we had at the end of last year, and nothing's really like topped it as far as like Sony news or Sony retrospect. I think Sony's just relaxing, seeing what the competition does, and going to play their cards out as far as releases like they do. Like I don't think it matters honestly, but whatever the marketing does on that end of it. But as far as what new cameras are coming, A7S IV I think would be the one. I think the A7 IV is still a valid camera. I don't think it needs to be replaced necessarily. But I see them maybe having a newer camera that might have global shutter and in a lower line camera to produce, that's the word I'm looking for, I guess, to put the real world R&D out there on these global sensors and see what they actually do, whether it flops or does well or doesn't. I think a move they would make is to put it in a $2,000 body camera, like say an A7 IV camera, and maybe even have the option to shoot globally or shoot with a regular shutter. Is there a hybrid sensor out there that can do both? That would be something interesting to experiment and see if that's a possibility with. And even have it limited to being just maybe not 120 frames a second, but what can be done with it. Always jumping in and says global shutters are very expensive. Yeah, they are. And if anybody's going to make one cheaply, it's going to be Sony. And Sony is really good at making very high end, very high quality componentry and making absolute trash. I mean, they can make some really real cheap stuff. And I think there's a place for it, but it's how much R&D do they want to invest into something that's cheaper, put it out in the mass, get real performance out of it, and see what it does. And that's why I say maybe a $2,000 body is not unheard of to replace the A7. I think the A7 IV is $2,500 now. So, I mean, that's the newer prices, 2020 kind of price increase, going rates. We're going to see a $2,500 camera maybe with it. But, put it out there for the masses to use and see what happens and research development that way. Sometimes the best things to do is to, they give away something without very much income or profit from something to learn more from it, and you write it off as an R&D. So, maybe we'll see something like that. Like I said, it might be limited functionality. It might. All right, Roy, thanks for coming in, man. Might be limited functionality and have not the 120 frames a second, burst rate at global shuttering, but maybe at least shoot 5 frames a second global shutter and have a regular shutter that does 20 or 10 or whatever the current lineup requires. So there's definitely, there's cameras out there that can be released and be made, and I think there's some options there for it. As far as the cinema line goes, the FX30, there's rumors the FX FX50 or FX40, something like that, like a higher end APS-C cinema camera, more so than the FX30. Um, I think the last thing that was said about the FX6 was that it's still a good contender camera. There's lots to be done with that camera still, so there's no plan to upgrade that one. What I see him doing is maybe with an A7 S4 coming out. Again, it's that R&D, putting it out there to the masses before it goes pro, and seeing what it can, what capabilities are capable of, and before we see like an FX6 replacement with a new 6K low light global shutter sensor, something like that. um, and it's been a quiet first half of this year, so not much has happened. We've had a couple lens releases, nothing major, and I just don't know where else they're going to go with it. I mean, what else can they bring out right now? I'd like to see them make, and I said this somewhere once. I'd like Sony to make a astro-specific camera for astrophotography, something that's very good at catching stars, very good low light capabilities in the ISO performance, or very clean, ideal 3200, 6400 ISO for Milky Way photography. Very clean images at those specs, and have illuminated keys on it so we can see the thing at night. The buttons for me, I have big giant hands, so for comparison, here's an 85 millimeter 1.4. Yeah, it's a big chunky lens. My hand, my hand's massive compared to it. On my A7R R2, trying to manipulate these little buttons and stuff. I kind of know where they're at in the dark, but my hands go numb really easily. I've got nerve problems in my arms, so having keys that I can see would be really, really beneficial. I think Nikon's got illuminated keys. Hopefully, there's not some stupid patent out there that they've hold. Otherwise, I'll have to buy an astrophotography from Nikon. But I'd like to see Sony developed a camera, something like that, as a specialty body, and be very specific for that function. That's something new I would like to see from Sony. The lenses that we know we are out on the horizon, we're going to be seeing a new 85 Mark II GM. So we're going to see this lens replaced. This is the 85 1.4. Get it up here so we can see it. This is the Sony 85 f1.4 G Master lens. This is my first really big major lens purchase I bought with this camera. Sold a lot of stuff to get it, and it's been a great lens for me. Just one of those lenses I just can't ever seem to part with, no matter how many times I've thought about it. But we're going to see a Mark II, so it's going to be smaller, lighter, faster autofocus, quiet autofocus, hopefully, because it is extremely noisy. And then, there's the A5 1.2 rumor out there still. Like, are they going to release a 1.2? Do they need to release the 1.2? Are they trying to go after Canon in that regard? I don't think there's a need to chase Canon on every lens. I think the people that are in this, who are looking at those kind of lenses, they could probably just care less and buy whatever camera they need or whatever they want to accomplish their shot. So I don't think there's a huge need for the 85 1.2. I'd like to see them do it. They made the 50 1.2. It'd be an awesome lineup. But yeah, that's one of the things there. What other lenses would you like to see brought out and into the system? That'd be another question I'd like to ask you. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this link up. Do not expect to get in if you haven't been active in the chat, or I don't know you already from a previous stream. So if you don't meet those requirements, I will vet you and not let you in. That's how this is going to work. So there's the link for if anybody wants to join in. Hit me up. Come on in. Hang out. And in the meantime, I want to get back to this RX1 camera deal. This fad of small point and shoots. But I'm gonna just spend this time here to update you with what I've got going on. I haven't been very active on YouTube in the last couple months, really. I think what's my last video release? Let me look. Other than the live 2 weeks ago, it's been the end of March was my last video, which you guys nobody watched, so that's fine. And before that, middle of March. So I was active in March pretty good on videos, but took April off from it. I reason why is I've got my one big paid gig a year is in April, and I've been working on those videos for that client. Um, Most of that's done. I'm waiting on the client at this point to finalize that, and it's hard for me to wrap my head around getting into other projects with that going on. That's just me. I mean, like I said, I do this on the side as a hobby, so it's nothing major for me to want to go out and make videos. I've got a lot of videos filmed and I need to get edited and brought out. I just haven't spent that time doing it. I've also got a lot going on in here at home. Um, Unplanned expenses, planned expenses, projects I've been trying to get done. I've got it all, and it's handfuls and handfuls of stuff going on right now. So I haven't been spending a lot of time up here in the studio. In the last live, I talked about getting the 8200, and I actually ordered it, and I actually have it. It's brand new, right here in the box. So I have here a little bumper cover for it. There it is. So bumper cover and brand new 8200 in the box. So I need to mess with this still. I might return it. That's why I haven't really opened it. I don't know if I can. It seemed like I checked and it was questionable whether I'd get all my money back on it. So the job I bought it for fell through. So I've spent a bunch of money, and it's not being recouped. So I need to find a way to recuperate that cost if I'm going to open this thing up, and need to put some ads out there to try to see if I can land a couple photo shoots to do with it. I need to spend some time with it. So I've got to open it up and just spend some time with it. I think at this point, I thought about returning it. I've been going to go return it, and ultimately decided, it's a piece of kit that I've always wanted, and I kind of paused on photography a lot. I don't do photography very much, and why not try to reignite that and do more with the photography? So, with that being said, I ordered this little guy. Face, you can see it. This is the new hot shoe foot for my. I don't know where it's at right now. Probably in the bag. My TT685 Godox speed light, because it's got a broken foot on it. So I'd like to be able to mount that on the camera, have that as my control board to run the 8200 as well as the flash on the camera. Or I can still use my X1 trigger here, which I have here on the camera already, and do a 2 flash setup. I did buy this Godox S65T, and that's where my flash is actually. Here. So I bought this modifier right here. I got the flash in here right now with the speed mount. So the flash is in there. This is the Godox S2 bracket, whatever. So you can put in a modifier. Let me snap this thing. The lever. So, I'm breaking stuff probably. Make sure that's good. Okay. So, yeah, Bowens mount. This is a 25-inch modifier. It's got the diffuser here. It's got an inner diffuser that you can run. I was playing with this in the studio here the other night, just testing it out. It didn't have the beauty dish that I thought it came with, that it would reflect the flash back in more, give it a little bit more power, I figured. Excuse me. So I kind of put a hamper on that. I was just playing with it. The 8200 showed up. I'm kind of just like, in a spot, like I need to get it into it, and I don't want to right now. I've got other things I'm trying to work on, so I'm trying to focus and really spend my time getting my mind set into an aspect of doing that kind of photography again, and playing with it, and learning how to do the high-speed sync thing again, which I've done before. Just I need to utilize that time and get some more training in for myself on it, and then try to get some work to help justify the buying the dang thing when I bought it for a single job that I was hoping would just pay for it. That's the way it goes, though. So yeah, we're gonna get the 8200 out here eventually, and I'm gonna do something with it. But it is nice having the Bones mount and this. I've got the speed light in this one right now. So this is my Godox TT685. It's got a broken Show you the broken foot on it. There's a little plastic clip on the bottom over here that's broken off on the other side. Let me see if I can get it up here close to the camera. There you go. So you see the bottom foot and the top one's broken off. So it doesn't fit in the camera anymore properly anyways. So I deal with that. So yeah, I've got that. And then in the studio-wise, I mean, I've been really wanting to get up here and film. I really wanted to buy, instead of buying an 8200, I really wanted to buy a new key light for video. And this was a tough one for me to decide on whether or not to invest in the 8200 or buy a key light. And I'm talking about like a monolight that's, somewhere around the $200 mark, nothing expensive or crazy, buy a color that has a high luminous output that I can use a Bowens mount with. So I thought, the speed light thing, the 8200 is a usable tool that can actually generate some income. The key light would be only for YouTube, and YouTube doesn't generate income. It makes some money to keep my wheels turning here, but nothing to the point of I'm making money from it. So I chose the smarter investment option of the 8200 in hopes to develop some more work. Yeah, you just got to get out there and get some work. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I just got to do it. And then I do have a rather larger video project coming up at the end of this month that it'll take some of my time and attention away for a good while, I imagine. So I don't know when I'm going to be active back in YouTube here to a point of like posting weekly videos. I've been kind of taking a break from it. I haven't been too concerned about it. The channel just kind of floats along very slowly. I do see my hours dropping and my view count dropping when I do take these long extended breaks. And when I come back up after about 2 or 3 weeks of posting regularly, the channel growth starts going back up. So there's definitely a thing to be said about being consistent every day. If you want the channel to grow, it definitely will help the channel grow by doing that. But yeah, it's been slow process. I think we're sitting at 1490 subscribers today, so we're almost at that 1500 mark, which will be a huge milestone. I think for where I'm at and what I've done with the channel, which isn't much, but yeah, we're getting there. It's moving slowly up there. So, well, we're going to jump back into this RX thing right now and get back to answering some questions of. Earlier in the stream, we were talking about the RX1, or no, I'm not. So I'll get rid of the Sony name. A full frame point and shoot camera with a fixed lens on it. Why would you invest so much money into a high performance sensor camera like that to be limited by one lens? So, in today's day of age, why have a 33 or 35 millimeter full frame sensor in a fixed body or with a fixed lens? I see a new fad developing out of this, and this is going to turn into retro cameras. Nikon just released the ZF retro camera, which is a Z-mount camera, uses Z-mount lenses in a retro body. I think Sony's definitely going to be coming on board with this retro thing. I think we're going to see some sort of retro announcement from them in the near future. But retro's kind of it's something I think most photographers, even with the Nikon family and hanging out over at Robert Silver's channel, while they love their retro ZF camera and what it can do and all the capabilities of it, they're still shooting their Z8s or Z9s on the professional level. So I don't see professionals buying a camera like that other than just to have it as a luxury item to just have and use for their own recreational purposes of just taking a step back from the professional sense and having something more basic, but to the performance levels they're expecting from their other cameras. So that's, I think, one reason why in today's market we would have a camera with a fixed lens like this is that it allows the professionals to just take a step back, travel lightly, but have every bit of the performance they expect and the images they expect to be getting from their main lineup of cameras. To have a camera that is a fixed lens limiting to challenging to them, and gives them everything they expect out of a camera. So that's definitely point one. I think is to answer that question is why in this today's age is it something for a professional to drop back onto, and the other user would be the very niche luxury side of photography, where you're either buying a Leica for $6,000 or $12,000, or one of, say, a new Sony high performance RX1R Mark III. If that camera is going to come out, it's something along those lines is what we're going to see, in the market for that. And then the next question is why and who wants a full frame point and shoot camera? I mean, who's going to want that? And we kind of answered it with the photographer, the professional photographer taking a step back from professional to being a hobbyist. Like, what's your daily driver? If you ask a mechanic, what are they driving? Do they like working on cars still? No, we don't, because they're mechanics. And I say we because I was one for many years. We know what we get away with in our cars, and we might have a project car that gets meticulously well maintained, and we also have a daily driver that is absolute junk, because we just know what it needs to maintain and get us from point A to point B. So we may have a professional photographer who has a small point and shoot full frame because they want the performance out of it. Or we got, like I said, the niche, luxury brand items, somebody that wants a high-end camera, doesn't want to carry a whole bag of stuff, but they want the performance. And then when we learn that performance, they might have something like that. So I think that is a big thing. Now, going further into this discussion, what do we want to see? If Sony were to release an RX1 R Mark III camera to replace the R2, what do we want to see in it? Hit me up in the comments what you'd like to see that camera have. This is my hit list of what it needs to have, I think. One, it's got to be basically an A7R5 copy, spec for spec. Now, they've already done that. They have the A7C, A7C-R. Let me get that right. An R5 camera, small compact body, interchangeable lens. Why would you sell that with a fixed lens? If they were to do it, it's going to be a retro style camera. I think there's a place for two retro cameras in Sony's lineup. This new RX camera, renamed, change the whole branding, get rid of the RX line. The RX line is kind of a mid-tier line in Sony's lineup from their original point and shoot days to their A7s. The RX is known for their 1-inch sensors. Very professional bodied cameras with the 1-inch sensor in them. The RX1, on the other hand, got the full frame sensors. So I think they need to get rid of that and take it out of there and just make it call it the Alpha. Why not? Just call it the Alpha. One retro style, full frame, fixed lens camera. I'd like to see them make a ZF competitor with a retro style, full frame, interchangeable lens camera with something high performance, say like an A7 4 sensor. Don't go full R in the full retro camera. I think there's a niche down a little bit you need to take to that. But I think as far as this sticking to the point and shoot topic, we should see an RX1R Mark III in a retro styling and change the name to something like Alpha. 61 megapixel. I think it's got to top the Q3. I mean, they're already at 60 megapixel. Maybe Sony will drop some high profile global shutter into it. And if you're going to charge $3,500 for a camera, because it was $3,300 for the RX1R2. I got these names. And if you're not familiar with that camera, it's a small, full frame camera in a point and shoot body, magnesium body, I'm sure, top of the line, everything, I'm sure. But why not go after that market with the Leicas and market it out? I don't even know if the marketing was Zeiss. They've done that. Zeiss nowadays is kind of while people know Zeiss and the brand Zeiss, I don't know if it has the same prestige as it used to have. Um, maybe just the G Master line, put a G Master lens on it, call it G Master. Why not Sony keep their own stuff to themselves on this one, and put a really badass, fast 35 millimeter lens on it, 28 millimeter lens, something like that. I think that would be a winner, and be a very awesome camera with the retro styling. Full video specs. I mean, basically, just give it everything in there. They kind of have to make it even viable, and not only have a pop up viewfinder, have the flippy screen that the RX5 has. I think having both options on that is incredibly important on that style of camera for the compactness, and make it very versatile in that manner. What else? What else would you guys like to see in that camera if they were to make it point and shoot? And if you're not sure, like let me share my screen real quick with what I'm looking at. The RX1R Mark II. Let me share this with you. So this is the Sony uh, RX1R Mark II. Like I said, it's a 42 megapixel sensor, full frame camera with a fixed lens. We have a pop-up viewfinder. I think that's the design's been tried and true with Sony. Their HX series on their last of the point and shoots had this kind of pop-up viewfinder. Works really well for what the compactness of it is. Fit in your coat pocket kind of camera. We got a little hood on it here. Let's see. We got a magnesium alloy chassis. Fixed lens, very thin body. We got this iconic orange Sony ring on it. Sensor picture. No flash on this thing. Just a basic camera. Nothing crazy. You can see how small it is here. Very small little camera. And this one's got a tilt screen. Like I said, I think it'd be very wise of them to put the R5 screen on this camera. And even if it costs $500 more, you're already in a niche market. Why not go all in on it? That's what I'm thinking. So, I mean, that's what I'd like to see them do. And a retro styling, silver body, retro buttons, stuff like that. I think that would be a contender out there. So with that, that's definitely what I'd want out of it. As far as a retro main body camera, let's look. Let me look at the. Let's look at this Nikon ZF. Yeah, so I can spell Nikon right. We've got a kind of a basic retro styling camera in black. I think you can get it in silver also. The dials, the shutter speed. Let's look at this thing here. You can see we've got get centered up. We got our shutter dial. We have our ISO dial over here. We have exposure. We have an f-stop indicator. There's lots of reminiscence and retro styling. I think this would be a hot topic right now for Sony to get into and have a retro style camera. But it doesn't need to be the R5 crazy. It needs to be A7 IV spec. I think just something middle of the road. Somebody who wants, hey, I'd like to, maybe somebody who's done film in the past wants to get something modern but with a familiar feel. Something like that. Very basic body design with full functionality in the camera, but presented in a retro manner. I think that would be definitely a key point to how they should do it. And I think Sony could do this very well. Even if they go back to the Minolta days, because if you're not familiar, Sony bought Minolta in the 90s, and that's where the Sony Alpha A mount came from. It was originally the A mount from Minolta. I'd like to see. I'll get this back off here. It'd be nice to see. My mouse on the right screen here. Get a retro style camera with those kind of specs. I think that would be it would do really well. It would be a hell of a contender for the ZF. I think we should expect something like that in the future from Sony. And Sony's whole ecosystem is very, very well adapt and coming along. And like I said, the one thing I think they don't have is a modern video monitor screen for the cameras. They have this stuff. Sony's a full-on cinema company. They have every kind of camera accessory they make for the cinema world and the cinema pricing. And I'd like to see them bring that back down into the lower line. I'd like to see them make video monitors. I'd like to see them make a video recording monitor, even as an option, because the cameras are capable of recording out to external recorders. But why are we limiting ourselves to third party? Why can't Sony produce something that works for themselves on that end? The microphone setup, they've really upped their game in the previous months. If you're not familiar with this, let me grab this without making too much noise. This is the ECM S1. Get that right? ECM S1. Yeah, this is I might be muffled right now. Let me go ahead and switch this down to full 360. Stereo there. Full 360. That should have helped clear up my sound there of my voice. So this thing you can see here is it's got a little, sound meter on it. Kind of cool. It's got the little microphone levels, dials on it. And here on the back, you can see this is wireless. This is going right to a receiver on the hot shoe of the camera. And I can dial in my audio with it right here on the spot. And this thing works fantastic. I really, really like this microphone. We'll switch it back to frontal. So it should be somewhat dimmed now, I imagine. And come back to forward where I have it sitting here on the table in front of me. That was one aspect. They've made their wireless set. Where's that at? Right here. Nice little charging case. We've got a wireless microphone, 2-person microphone skit right here. This works really well. It's another great option. They've made some really good leaps and bounds in the world of microphones and their ecosystem for that. I'd like to see them expand that into video lineup. Sony's has their flash systems also. I haven't ever messed with any of the Sony flash systems. It's very pricey for what it is, I think, compared to what is out there. And the same can be said for these microphones. They can be rather expensive too, but I'd like to get one of the Sony Speedlights just to have, so I have it with the kit, just to have that ecosystem. But it's probably don't need it for what you can achieve with other lighting systems. And lighting is it's a very subjective topic as far as what's out there for it. The one thing I do like about these Sony microphones is how they integrate right into the camera, and everything just works well for that regard. So that's definitely one spot where these cameras are nice and how they work with everything. They've got their mobile apps too. There's been good strides made toward their mobile apps applications and everything, how they work. The best one I think right now is the monitor control functionality that you get with the cinema cameras. So the FX series cameras is an app that we have that is a remote app, but it also allows me to see false color, zebras, everything right from a larger monitor. And I have used it on the gimbal as a display. It's not quite there yet as far as a wired HDMI display, because it does have latency and image quality definitely drops, but it doesn't drop enough where you can at least see your focus or not on an item, or where I've missed focus on the tiny screens before because I accidentally touched it and I realized I'm out of focus, or something's of that nature is wrong. So definitely things like that to look out for. Boy, guys, I'm like running out of things here I've got written down here. I've had a good run here. So what else can we see in these cameras? What else do you want to see from Sony? Let us know here. Sony's definitely paying attention and watching. They're listening to us. And, I've had direct contact with them. So I have some say of what you guys are out there asking for. If you guys want something, let me know so I can relay that to them when I speak to them, because it's nice having that avenue. And they're listening, guys. They definitely really are. They definitely have questions about their products. They want their honest feedback. and it's a very interesting, concept that they reach out to customers like myself, and they've had wanted my feedback on stuff. So definitely, if you guys have questions, bring them to me. Let me hit them up, um, and see what I can find out for you. So let's see here. I don't really have anything else, guys. I mean, we pretty much covered it. I said the Sony Alpha rumors has been very quiet. There's nothing really Sony related in there, so I didn't even bring it up tonight. Um, there's just no solid rumors out there right now coming on the Sony lineup, on the Sony market. So I know there's some releases coming. I know we're expecting to see some stuff come through, but nothing as of right now. Let's see, where are we at? We've been on for 50 minutes or so. It's not been on a bad run tonight. That off of there. Yeah. So I'm gonna hang out for another 10 minutes unless we get pretty active here. That's maybe my plan here, you guys. So let's just open it up. The panel's open. If you guys want to come in and you want to chat, here's the link again for tonight's show. If you want to come in, join on the live stream, you're welcome to. I will be vetting this time though, because I have had some instances in the past where people have come in and caused some trouble. So if I haven't seen your name before, you haven't been in the comments, and if you're not in the comments tonight, I will not be letting anybody in. So definitely hit me up in the comments, at least get that checked off so I know you're here. Let me know what you're shooting. Talk to me a little bit, and then like I said, unless you've been in one of my past shows and you're just hanging out tonight, let me know what you got. Let me go in and see. I've talked to you before about on this is the used market and buying used cameras. So let's go see what the used values are doing on some of our favorite Sony cameras tonight. Let's just see here. Go ahead and open up Sony. We have 29 offerings at B&H right now. Let me go ahead and share the screen again with you guys. We'll just see what we got out there on the used end. We got it at stage. There it is. Okay. A7R5, 10% off. So the camera's currently $3,500. They're selling for $3,147. Not a bad offering. That's a condition 10. Get his new. Guys, I've bought my 24 millimeter and condition 9, and it looked like a brand new lens coming out of the box. So I think anything 9 or higher, you guys are safe with buying. A7 III. Now, this is phenomenal, guys. A7 III is down to $1,100. Condition 9. New for $1,500. Now, I've always touted that the A7R2 is the best bargain camera. In the last year, it's really the A7 III. It's really stepped up to become one of the best value cameras you can get from Sony. I mean, sensor performance isn't that far off from the A7R R2. Where the biggest difference is, and what I noticed owning the A7 III for the years I had it, was the body quality was top notch, felt the same as the A7R2, but it was the shutter. The shutter was noisy and clunky. The A7R2 was very smooth and very just had a right feel to it, I guess. So, and does have a better shutter in the A7R2 versus the A7 III. That is something definitely to keep in mind. That being said, you're getting a lot more camera out of the A7 III than the A7R2 ever was, in so many different ways. So $1,100, $1,182 for a checked out A7 III. That's not a bad deal. The ZVE10. Now these cameras kind of came in and undercut the 6000 series, and where's the place in the 6100s? I don't really cover those topics on this channel too much, but it's something I've been wanting to talk about because I've had a lot of A6000s. I've had a 6400, and I just got done testing the 6600 out and selling it. But we've got the flagship A6700 now. That's a lot of camera for an APS-C, and these E10s are pretty nice cameras. A ZV line. A74 for 22. So again, it's $2,500 camera. That's just a standard rate, nothing special. Who's the A6100 for anymore? I mean, A6100 it's an entry level camera. It's $600 new, $477. This E10 was $700 and it's 613, 12% off. This is like at 20% off, and it's a condition 10. 8-bit video, you guys. This is getting dated, and it's just hard to justify having a camera, I think, like this from Sony these days. And where does that leave the 6000 series at? Are we going to see it just kind of dwindle away into obscurity? I don't know if we're going to see a revamp from it. I think we might see the rangefinder camera body is a great style, but I think they kind of replaced with the ZV line. So we'll come back to that on another day. But okay, here's a flagship Sony A1. This camera, this one I would probably like to own. 8K video, 4K 120, 10-bit, all the good stuff as far as video output, raw output. I mean, this camera is a do-it-all, but it's also $5,300 used from $6,500. So the A6700 with the 18-135 lens is $1,473. It's not too bad a price for that camera. This is a solid workhorse camera, guys. 6700, same sensor that's in the FX30 that I'm currently filming on. But it's got a shutter, and it's a rangefinder style camera. Definitely a really, really good camera, and this is going to hold this slot for a long time at the top of the A6000 series cameras. And like I said, are we going to see a market for the 6100s, in the future? Another E10 in a white. Definitely is one of those cameras marketed to the entry level YouTuber, social media influencer from multiple perspectives there. The A7C. Now, this is a camera I always just thought, what's the point of this camera? I've never really, they got two of them in here in silver. I like that they did the silver black, this kind of retro design. This is kind of where it all, I think the retro thing started, and they just, people took off with it. But $1,300, $1,600 new. It's an A7 III, guys. That's a good price considering where the A7 III is. There's some few improvements to this camera versus A7 III. I can't remember what they are exactly. I think it's mainly in focusing and some video stuff, but it's getting dated. I don't know if I would buy this camera for its compactness at this price. I think I would be looking at something newer, because if you're going to be buying something compact like this, you're probably planning on using it. I think it might be better spent somewhere else. Now, here's a camera you don't see very much, a white ZV-E1, $1,700, $1,900 new. This is an A7S III in a really cheap body, guys. So if you're looking for an A7S III style camera, this is definitely a really good option. Especially in white. I don't even think I knew they made this one in white. So that's a pretty cool deal. Another A7C with the lens, E1. Again, here's a black one for $1,800. A7C, A7C. Lots of A7Cs, guys. There's a reason why you're seeing A7Cs on this used market. Sony A9 II. This is not a surprise to see one of these in here. The A9 II, been recently replaced with the A9 III, global shutter. Some good deals. $3,200, condition 9. Seems a little steep to me for the age of the camera. But if you're shooting, news, reporting, sports, stuff of that nature, this is still a really, really good camera. Nothing at all wrong with this camera. Oh, here's an ancient NEX line. If you guys aren't familiar with this NEX line, this is the very first Sony E-mount system. These were APS-C cameras. This is where the mount was developed for, and it turned into a full-frame mount. But these NEX cameras is where it all started at. They kind of thought the Nikon 1, I think, is what the thought process was. Interchangeable lenses, small bodies, stuff like that. And then they released into what they become now. Here's an original A7, $485. This is something I would like to just to have on the shelf, have a Gen 1 camera. Some kind of where it started. 6300, guys, $530. That's expensive for a 6300. I think in this day, this market, I wouldn't pay that for that camera. A7 II for 583. That is worth $580 though. This camera, even though it's not quite the video centric camera of the A6300, the A7 II was where I first started full frame at. My journey with full frame was on this camera, and the only reason why I updated was for the eye autofocus the A7R2 had. It wasn't for the lack of resolution. That, and I just always had my eye on the R2. So when it came time, it was just like, well, I'm going to get the one I want. But yes, this camera right here uh, definitely has a lot of potential for $583. Definitely a nice camera. Another 6300 with a lens. No, stay away from it. 681. These are good. It's a good option. It seems a little bit steep for the price. It's a 9 plus. What was this one? A7 II, 8 plus, moderate wear. No, it's up to you guys. If you want to spend an extra $100 to have a condition level higher. 9 plus is probably going to be like mint looking clean. A7S. Now, the original A7S had a lot of. It didn't. I don't think it had a good focusing system, but it was still a good contender of a camera. So you could definitely $689 for a used A7S. That's not bad if you're in the market for wanting to dabble into video and have really good low light capabilities. This camera's got it, but don't expect amazing performance, and definitely don't judge Sony on these early cameras, because they were the stepping stones way before anybody else were into it. Now, here's my A7R2 for $799, guys. This is a $3,200 camera. It's what I paid for my new one. I think I got mine near the end of its lifespan on the shelf for about $2,600, I think. I haven't found a reason to replace it. While there's lots of reasons I want to upgrade to at least an R3, there's no functionality reason why I really need to. That's why I just haven't done it, because the R2 just works. It just takes pictures. It's a phenomenally good camera. So $800 is a steal for a good camera. And that's 8 plus moderate wear, but still, it's probably about where mine's at. So $900 for condition 9. Just again, condition 9s, guys, you're going to be looking at, basically brand new stuff. A7S2 now. Now, I've thought about having this as just a complement to my A7R2. I owned one briefly, and somewhere back there in my videos, I have a talk about the A7S2 and the A6400 and that whole deal, how it went down. I kept the 6400 because I wanted the more modern features of that camera. First, the A7S2 seemed a little antiquated, poor focusing system. But I never really got to spread this one's like really get it going and see what it can do, because it just had some quirks to it that I just couldn't get used to coming from the A7R2. So never got this one to out to full speed and see what it could do. But I know for less than $1,000, it's a great camera, guys. You can achieve a lot with it if you're wanting to do some filmmaking with it. And last but not least, the A9, Sony A9 mirrorless camera. This is another good camera, first gen. Nothing wrong with it. $1,600. That's a good price. Well used camera, probably. With that, guys, I don't really have much else to talk about. We're going to go ahead and shut this thing down. So appreciate you just coming in to watch tonight. If you were here, Roy, thanks for coming in earlier on, just having a chat. Good to see you as always. And with that, guys, let me jump back in here, get this thing up here out of the way. There we go. So with that, guys, thanks for coming in. I appreciate you coming in and visiting. And we'll get some videos out there here in the future. It's going to be a little bit of time for me to get back in the groove of editing a weekly video again. Definitely need to do that, but I've got some other stuff happening that's just going to keep me occupied, and we'll try to stick with the lives for now. So with that, thanks for coming in. I'll talk to you later. Have a great night, and we'll see you. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Let me make sure I hit the end stream. Goodbye.